Hey everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video this evening. I hope that you're doing really great. I hope you've been having a wonderful Wednesday thus far. And so we're going to be taking a look at what is going on across the Caribbean and surrounding areas. As expected, there is some thunderstorm activity along with some showers across some areas. And we have quite a bit to look at in this evening update. So we will be delving into what is expected in terms of those disturbances out there. 3 areas to watch. We'll be looking at what models have to show, and we also want to go over into the Eastern Pacific very briefly because there is a tropical storm that has recently developed, which is a threat to land or going to be a threat to land for some areas. And before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. Alright, so let us go ahead and get straight into what is happening. We're starting out with the Eastern Pacific, and that is the coast of Mexico. So off Mexico, there is Tropical Storm Hilary. So a disturbance that was over there has now strengthened into Tropical Storm Hilary. And we can see just how defined this cyclone is. And it is expected to strengthen into a major hurricane. It could be near Category 4 intensity at the peak. And it's going to be in very close proximity to land, which is going to likely prompt some watches or warnings being issued in the coming days, maybe even as soon as tomorrow or Friday. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the cone forecast. Here we have it from the National Hurricane Center. And so Hilary is expected to strengthen, as I said, but as it moves more on the northward track, it will encounter cooler waters, which will result in weakening. But nevertheless, it could be in very close proximity to the Baja California Peninsula as a hurricane. And as I said, those watches, warnings could be prompted very soon, and then what is left of it could make its way into Southern California as we head into Monday. Pretty interesting week ahead with this cyclone here, and it is already producing some heavy rainfall for some areas close to the southwest coast of Mexico. And so in the event of heavy rainfall, flooding is always a possibility, so please take the necessary precautions and stay safe if you're there. Let's hop over into the Atlantic Basin, and here we can see that there is a lot going on. Lots of thunderstorms developing this afternoon across some areas, parts of Northern South America, headed to Central America, even off the U.S. in the Gulf and off the southeast coast. There is a lot of thunderstorm activity. So we're going to be zooming in on the disturbances, but first we want to look at what is happening for the Caribbean itself. So here we are, and we can see that as we head to Florida, going up into the Bahamas, there is a lot of thunderstorm activity for some islands, Abaco, Grand Bahama, Andros Island, even near Nassau, there's a lot of thunderstorm activity as well. And then as we head to the Turks and Caicos Islands, Southern Bahamas, not a whole lot happening. It's been a pretty sunny and hot day. Over into the westerly part of Cuba, there is some thunderstorm activity. Some of that was in the vicinity of Isle of Youth, but that is moving out right now. A bit of cloud cover across to the Cayman and Cayman Brac. For Grand Cayman, it has been a pretty quiet afternoon, nothing crazy happening. But for parts of Jamaica, especially over in the west, there has been some thunderstorms. There is all that activity coming down from the north. And then as we look into Hispaniola, not much happening. Isolated thunderstorms popping up across some parts of Haiti. Let's head further east and go into the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. There is also some activity, and we see a lot more as we head down to the southwestern islands, headed down to the Windward Islands for the ABC Islands. Not a whole lot happening this evening. Going to Central America, thunderstorms across parts of Mexico, Guatemala, and even heading to parts of Honduras and Nicaragua. So let's go further down, and there is also that activity popping up across some parts of Panama as well. And then as we look over into Venezuela, going to Colombia, the Guyanas, there are also a lot of showers and thunderstorms popping up, and there we see all that activity now that is being induced by a tropical wave. As a matter of fact, that is the one expected to make its way into the Gulf of Mexico, and we could see some development of it as we head into the early part of next week. So let's go on to what the National Hurricane Center has to show. But firstly, we want to look at this surface chart here. So here we can see that there is a lot going on, but those orange vertical lines represent the axes of the tropical waves out there. There we have one over in Central America about to emerge fully over into the Eastern Pacific. Another which has entered the Caribbean. That's the one I just showed you guys, producing all that rainfall activity and all that moisture increase across the Eastern Islands. And then there is one ahead of the disturbance out there, disturbance number 1, which is the one closer to the Caribbean and the one closer to the coast of Africa. There we have that tropical wave right there. So as we look at these satellite imagery, there we can see that there's quite a bit of activity. Most of the activity is in association with the second disturbance, which is the one closer to the coast of Africa. That next one is just within that area. That's where the low pressure area is located. And then the tropical wave ahead of it. There's something interesting about that tropical wave that I want to show you guys later in this update. But going on to NHC now, here we can see our 3 areas to watch. None of these are designated as invests as of right now, but I'm expecting that one of them will, especially that one closer to the Caribbean, sooner rather than later. But let's look at these individually. So that area highlighted in the Gulf, again, that tropical wave which is in the Caribbean, all that activity in association with it could drift to the north and across the greater Antilles, parts of the Bahamas, South Florida, and eventually into the Gulf of Mexico, where we could see some development try to take place as we head into next week. And no doubt about a tropical cyclone once conditions are favorable enough, especially with those abnormally warm sea surface temperatures, which will boost intensification. Think of it as just a whole lot of fuel being out there ready to boost these low pressure areas as they develop. Now, as we look at that next disturbance, there we can see 50% chance of development. That chance has increased since early this morning, since the 2 a.m. update, and it seems as though this is going to be moving to the west-northwest and eventually taking on a northwestward track. Might miss the Caribbean. Some ensemble members want to take it close, and then that other one could just stay out to sea. 40% chance of seeing development, and not a big concern to land, just producing a lot of showers and thunderstorms in the vicinity of the Cabo Verde Islands right now. So as we look at what the ensemble members have to show, we're starting out with the Euro members, and here we can see them a lot expected as we're going to be heading into the next couple of days. So this goes out to Sunday of next week, Sunday the 20th of August. Now at this time, the tropical wave ahead of disturbance 1. So this isn't disturbance 1. These members are for disturbance 1. This is for that tropical wave out there. Very interesting scenario here. But as we saw, NHC only marks 2 areas out there in the main development region. Let's see if they're going to mark that next one. We see some Euro members picking up on that tropical wave try to develop as it continues toward the west. Even if it doesn't, once it is producing a lot of activity, it could bring a flood threat to the southeastern islands of the Caribbean. But then there we have disturbance 1. Many members expect that it will develop. NHC states that it could become a tropical depression within the coming days, and then the next one behind it. A new cluster being seen there for a potential system coming off Africa, another tropical wave emerging that might develop under the right conditions. Not much support for that Gulf system just yet, but as we head to Tuesday of next week, look at that. A lot more members expecting that, hey, we could see something in the Gulf, maybe a tropical storm at the most. And again, with those very warm temperatures, it is not out of the picture that we could even see a hurricane try to rapidly get itself together there. But as of right now, I would say there's a pretty low chance of that happening. There's no guarantee that something will even form there, so only time will tell. And as we head to this weekend, there should be a better picture of what's ahead. As we look to the GFS ensemble members here heading to Sunday, also picking up on that tropical wave ahead of disturbance number 1, showing that disturbance 1 could develop, and then we see more support for disturbance number 2, and then the next wave to emerge off the coast of Africa heading to Tuesday. We also see members sniffing at that Gulf system, so it looks as though Texas is going to be the state or the area impacted most by whatever forms in the Gulf. So if you're in Texas, and to a greater extent across the Gulf Coast, if you're along the Gulf Coast, you want to keep an eye on all that is happening, because it is heading to that period, that active period, when we will see a lot going on, and the probability of seeing something major in the Gulf will continue to increase as we head to the peak of the season. And eventually, though, head into Saturday of next week, take a look at this. Things getting very messy in the Caribbean as GFS members are sniffing at something developing. Speaking of, let's go on to this. Let's go on to the latest run, the 12Z run for GFS, and I'm gonna be taking you guys out to the 22nd, out to Tuesday of next week. There we can see that disturbance 1 is expected to be a tropical storm at that point. Not much going on for disturbance number 2. That Gulf system there may be trying to get itself together, and a lot of moisture across the Caribbean. And then as we head to Friday of next week, we see all this activity lifting into the Gulf again. So GFS showing that we could see some additional development development in the Gulf by Monday of the following week, heading to the final few days of August. We see that whatever it develops, maybe a tropical storm could make its way into Texas, and GFS is expecting another system over in the Bay of Campeche. So very interesting here. GFS showing that there is gonna be a lot going on in the Caribbean, the Western Caribbean, as we head to the final week of August. And then Canadian model icon, those are other models which have been consistent about seeing multiple systems. They're also sniffing at that potential Gulf storm as we head into next week. Icon is showing that for Tuesday, and the Canadian model is also hinting that, hey, we could see something try to get itself together over there. And most of these models are expecting development of the current disturbances. And as we look at the sea surface temperature map, as I said earlier, very warm waters in the Gulf, even off the southeast coast and in the northwest Caribbean. So these temperatures will favor rapid intensification. So there is a lot on the horizon, guys, but I'm here to keep you posted as time goes by so that you're never caught off guard with any of these systems. And that is basically what I wanted to share with you in this lengthy update. I hope you found it to be quite informative, but if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will respond once I get the chance. And as always, remember to be weatherwise.